The Baltimore Orioles were the fun surprise of the 2022 season, unless you're a Red Sox fan, because that meant you finished in last place. But they went 83 and 79 last year in 2022, and they have a very, very, very bright future ahead of them. So we're going to cover them right here on this Baltimore Orioles team profile. Pat's very excited. As you can see, he's decked out in his Orioles gear as he lives in the Baltimore area. So let's get straight into it. My name is Derek. I'm here with Pat. You're watching the Baltimore Orioles team profile right here on Bleacher, Brawls, and let's get straight into it. So as I said, 83 and 79 was the record for the Orioles last year. A little bit of a slow start, but once things kind of clicked for this team and, a certain someone got called up, as I'm sure you'll probably want to talk about, things clicked and it was off to the races for this Orioles team. Sucked being a Red Sox fan because it meant you finished in last place like me. Although Pat and Baltimore was still a little happy to see the Orioles finally have some success, as most baseball fans were, because Orioles fans deserved it after some losing seasons. So let's talk about this Orioles roster. I'll go with Pat first. Who are three key players for this Orioles team? And out of those three, who do you think has the biggest impact for them?
All right. So for 2023, right, Derek obviously alluded to Adley Rutschman, future Hall of Famer Adley Rutschman, a generational catcher who should have been on this team on March 30th of last year, but had an injury and didn't quite happen. Didn't come up till 2 months later. I think they were really good for this every day after those 2 months. That's not a coincidence. Felix Bautista in the back of the bullpen, another guy who didn't quite get that role, that closer role until after the trade deadline when they got rid of Jorge Lopez. And this is a guy that pumps 101. I mean, doesn't even flinch. Right. Like Derek said, I don't just live in the Baltimore area, Derek. I live in Baltimore City, baby. All right. Number one. And number two, going to a lot of games at Camden. And this is a guy who doesn't break a sweat in the bullpen. I mean, like he does 101 without blinking. Okay. And then I think your third sort of young talent that needs to make an impact on this team is Grayson Rodriguez. I mean, I think this is a guy who needs to, I don't know about quite breaking camp the way that the Orioles develop guys. But perhaps a mid-year call-up, maybe a little bit early summer call-up needs to be in this rotation. I think that it's going to be like we got the young guys, they're here, and now let's take a step up, and these young guys need to do it for real now.
Yeah, I've been really high on Grayson Rodriguez, so I love the fact that you brought him up because I thought like last year he was going to be on the roster sometime in the midseason. Obviously, he got injured and that kind of derailed things. I don't see a reason why he couldn't break camp with the team, but, it's the Orioles, and we all thought Adley was breaking camp with the team last year, and then he got injured, and it just didn't happen. So you never know. But, obviously a guy like Adley Rutschman is huge. You brought up Felix Bautista, who I was going to talk about, but because I was actually surprised that you didn't bring this guy up, so I'll talk about him. Cedric Mullins. 30-30 guy in 2021, and it seems though he's been a little bit forgotten from non-Baltimore fans because it's all about Adley Rutschman now, and it's like, hold on, do we forget what Cedric Mullins did in 2021? And he did not have a bad 2022 either. It's not like he had a terrible year. It wasn't the 2021, but it was still a very good year. And being a center fielder of this Baltimore team, and you always like to look up the middle. And Mullins is kind of that proven guy up the middle. I know they brought in Adam Frazier, maybe plays some second base, probably not going to play there. Maybe he plays every day, maybe he doesn't, who knows. But you have Rutschman, who's definitely still a young guy. He's proved himself last year, but he's still young. You're going to probably have Gunnar Henderson at short. Maybe it's still Jorge Mateo. Sure, maybe it's Jorge Mateo and Gunnar plays third. Who knows? But, it's going to be someone who's young at short, most likely. Second base, it's either a veteran guy like an Adam Frazier or another young guy. And then Cedric Mullins is that veteran up the middle, but proven veteran who's an all-star caliber player. So that's why I think he's going to be huge for this Orioles team in 2023.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about back up the middle in a second, but I think that Ryan Mountcastle gets a similar amount of flack. Mountcastle a bit more of a down year than Cedric had this year, but I mean, he's still he's not getting older. It's like his third season, He can have bad seasons. He can have bad seasons when they push the fences back. I think he got a lot of flack from this fan base last year, and that was a bit uncalled for. I think your infield, I think it's Mountcastle. I think you've got Arias at second. I think you've got Gunnar at short, and or excuse me, Mateo at short, and then Gunnar at third. And then you're just using Frazier matchups, days off, things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And, you bring up Adam Frazier, as I obviously brought him up too. And that kind of will lead into, their offseason moves. They signed Adam Frazier. They signed Kyle Gibson, Michael Givens. They traded for James McCann. They also traded for Cole Irvin. You look at those moves. What do you think is the biggest move, or is their biggest move a lack of a big move?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think really small, or not small, but look small, could be a really surprising move is McCann to back up Adley. Anytime Adley was off last year, it was a bad day. It was rough with Robbins and Trinas behind the dish. And I think that McCann's going to steady that a little bit. But I think what you're really looking at is these two starters. I think you're looking at Kyle Gibson, veteran righty, and you're looking at Cole Irvin, no, I got it right. Kyle Gibson, veteran righty. I have it wrong in my notes. Cole Irvin, young lefty, right? So you're bringing in both. And Irvin, like a little bit more to prove. Okay, he's been playing a lot of who cares games in Oakland. Right?
Very pitcher-friendly ballpark too.
Right. It's been a lot of wash, right? But I think, and as much as we make fun of you for it, Derek, like you had a great point last year, like the rotation stunk, right? And it needed some reinforcements. And neither one of these are splashy moves, right? They didn't go out and sign Justin Verlander. They didn't make a huge trade or anything, but they made the pieces. Yep. I think they made the moves that they needed to make, right? Veteran presence, younger guy to prove, righty, lefty, like they're doing what they needed to do. And by the time you add Grayson into this rotation in a couple of months, probably, Dean Kramer, you're starting to get a little John Means back. You're starting to get like, oh, okay, there are some names here.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit about having John Means and Cole Irvin in the same rotation because I feel like they're not exactly similar, but there's somewhat lefties who they're not flamethrowers. I don't think of them as high strikeout guys. I mean, I see them like John Means. Like when I saw the Orioles move the fence back, I'm like, oh my Lord, like this isn't going to help John Means out amazingly. Like this is going to be perfect for him. I feel like Cole Irvin, like if you looked at Cole Irvin in the old Baltimore with old dimensions and now the new dimensions, it's like, holy crap. I know Cole Irvin's coming over from Oakland and every foul ball's an out in Oakland. Let's be honest. So maybe his numbers get a little worse. Maybe they get a little better because some of those fly balls to the left are now flyouts. Maybe, who knows? It is going to be very interesting, but that's the one thing. They're pitching definitely. They made moves. Now, will all those moves pay off? Who knows? But I think that Cole Irvin move is probably their biggest move of the offseason. And I think it was needed because I still felt like they were missing a guy. Michael Walker was rumored. No one knows what's going on with Walker. As we're recording, he's still not signed. So who the heck knows? But, we're talking about these new acquisitions they made and, expectations for 2023 for Baltimore. Obviously, they were good with Adley Rutschman last year. Without Adley Rutschman, they weren't good. So they're going to need him to stay healthy, obviously. And being healthy as a whole is always helpful. And it's always nice to have some good injury luck on your side. So what are the expectations for this Orioles team in heading into 2023?
I think you got to make the playoffs. I don't think it's a choice. I think, a outside looking in, you're that fourth wild card. You didn't quite make it right. Like, I don't think they're not trying to be there anymore. Like they are, let's be honest, not go that deep in the playoffs, right? Some tougher teams to bring down, but you got to get there and you got to make the regular season worth it. And you got to get one step closer. And I think that step is a wild card berth. And I think it's making the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. I do wonder, part of me does wonder, like, how does this bullpen hold up? Because there were a lot of breakout years in the bullpen last year, and you always wonder, relievers can be volatile. But my expectations for the Orioles are you got to push for a wild card spot. That's number one. And number two is pushing for a wild card spot while continuing the development of your young players and prospects in the minor leagues. That's the main key for this Orioles team. You can't get stagnant on the player development aside things either. Push for a playoff spot, see growth from your young players, from Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, and even guys like Jorge Mateo, Ryan Mountcastle, et cetera, et cetera. And also seeing guys like Grayson Rodriguez graduate and hopefully perform well in the big leagues and other guys too. I think that's what you're hoping for this Orioles team. And I think that's their expectation for 2023.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a similar trade deadline that we did last year with them. I think last year everybody went, buy. Like you can do it. You're on the right track. Like trade a couple guys and do this and make it happen. You make the playoffs, right? I think they're going to be in a similar case this year that like in or out, they're not going to like try and do something to put them over the edge, right? They have a plan. They're going to stick to it. Secret plan, a plan that we all know, who knows, right? But they have a plan and they're going to stick to it. And like, oh no, we're the 5th wild card spot right now. Like they're not going to go out and make a huge move. They're gonna continue on the path because I mean, listen, it was some desolate years in Camden Yards. It was a Spirit Halloween every October, right? But they're on the right track. The direction worked. Mike Elias knows what he's doing, and they're not going to deviate from that regardless of how it goes. But I think that this is the year where it starts to click a little bit more.
Perfect place to end it on then. Let's see if it does click. And hopefully for Orioles fans, it does. Orioles fans, let us know your thoughts in the comments on your team heading into 2023. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when every post. First link in the description will be a playlist for all the team profiles that we've put up. So check that out. Also, check out the Bleacher website, podcast, Instagram, and Twitter, plus all the crew's Twitters down there in the description. For Pat, my name is Derek. Thanks for tuning in to the Baltimore Orioles team profile here on Bleacher Brawls, and we'll see you next time.